So my name is Jarrod White. I am a filmmaker, a musician, a writer. This is my piece. This is the title card right here. It's called Demon Queller. This particular title card, as well as sort of a lot of the imagery in it, was sort of cheekily positioned to be a sort of heavy metal type thing. Most of the images in the film are of myself in the woods. I was particularly thinking of Scandinavian black metal images of disillusioned young white men with long hair, looking very grim, people like this. So you sort of have these images in here and sort of discussing the interface between the internal world, aka what I deal with 24/7, just being myself, and the external world that I'm forced to, perhaps unfortunately, deal with. But it was a work that was inspired by wanting to do something that was entirely contradictory, in the sense that this is a work made by a musician that is not only has no music, but it is entirely silent. It's a work made by a writer that has no written element. It's a work made by somebody who is very, very reluctant to ever show their face anywhere. That is mostly composed of images of my face in extreme close-up. So how do I express myself using these contradictory elements? That was sort of the idea. The process of doing it was very improvisatory, in that I took the camera outside, I started, following that muse that you've heard of before, and until motifs started to arise, and then I went down those directions. It was also partially inspired by, if you know that Caspar David Friedrich painting of the back of the figure looking out at the very sublime sort of thing. I realized that a lot of the work that I've been doing, a lot of the film work in particularly, was sort of, okay, here am I, here are you, the audience, and we're looking at the same thing, rather than looking at me, so I inverted it as another sort of contradiction of what I typically do. Definitely in the sense of putting a piece into a gallery and then also working in the gallery. I'm constantly thinking about the sense of it occupying space and me occupying space in the world, which is something that is very controversial, of who occupies space and what space they occupy, and then also that's an extension in the same thing with the artwork. Why is this artwork here? How did this wind up here? Why is this here and not something else? When you work in the gallery, people come up to you and they say things like, why the fuck is this here? Or like, what does this mean? Or like, what's the point of this?
Where's the real art?
This isn't real art, why is this here? Which, I guess is valid. But to me, art is useless, which is why I like it. It serves no objective function, We all disagree about what it means, and there isn't a correct answer, and that's why I like it, because, I think human beings are like that too. We're not here for any particular reason. We just are, and we try to, select the things we do, and the ways we look, and the way we act to be as comfortable and as fill it up with fake meaning as much as we can. So the art is sort of the same thing in that sense. How I feel about working in the gallery is the same way I feel about making art, which is the same way I feel about being a human being, which is that it sucks and I do it nonetheless. And so the reason why this piece is called Demon Queller is the idea of, by making this work, I can therapeutically sort of quell these demons. But inadvertently, I could have also called the piece Demon Maker, because it's sort of the same thing, which is another sort of one of these contradictions. If I vanished up my own rectametal, it can be yanked out with any questions anyone has, or any, yes?
I always have questions. Sorry, what galleries do you work in?
I used to work at the ICA. I
Okay.
haven't for actually quite a long time, but I did work there for about a year and a half with Shaheen.
How long did you work there?
Yeah, like a year and a half or so.
Okay. Yeah, long enough.
Yeah, though you sort of figure out.
Sorry,
No, yeah, and after that I went and then worked at a job for about 5 years that was much, much worse than that. So I longed for the ICA during that time. But yeah, the ICA is an interesting place. Working in a gallery is an interesting thing.
Did you study art?
I went to film school, I went to nursing.
Oh, okay, okay.
So then fresh out of there, my first job was working in an art gallery.
Was it what you expected?
No. You know, when they're like, if somebody touches the art, this is what you should do. I'm like, oh, that'll come up every once in a while. It's like 30 times every hour. Like, you're like, oh, I spent a lot of time in galleries looking at art, you know.
Yeah.
Every once in a while you see someone touch something. No, it's all the time, all day, every day. People just walk in and touch something. It's like, what is wrong with you?
My favorite is when it's their nose or their hat. You're like, okay.
And we had like, there's like, what was it? There were these plastery like rabbit mazes. It was Foster Price 2017.
Oh, the mice.
The mice, yeah.
Really?
So that was like, yeah, they were like maybe 20 of them on a table, and people were like touching because it was like plaster. No, mice were in like the videos.
Oh.
It was like a work where like the artist's father is like a
Geneticist
or a psychologist who works
mice,
with
yeah.
mice. So she like took his like neuroplasticity for mice like mazes, and they like are excited, but that was always like, what's it feel like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, I touched everything in every gallery on my last day of Thursday, so no shame.
I'm not supposed to say that.
Say it every time. I like to touch.
I wonder, is there any one moment you feel your inner world connects with your external world?
Well, it's sort of through doing this stuff, and it becomes undivorceable. I can't imagine a me without doing this, and obviously this doesn't exist without this. That's very apparent. So this is sort of the tether, which is good when you wind up in a space like this, and then you go, oh, other people are crazy and weird too, which is good. Because when you feel very isolated, which I think this sort of encapsulates too, with the smallness of the presentation, the very isolationist close-ups on my face, it's very, you know, spotlight on this person, divorced, which don't talk about the COVID thing, everyone knows. We're all very isolated.
Are you also a musician?
Yeah.
Do you hear a soundtrack in your head with this?
No, but I can't not put something together rhythmically. Like anything I do is based on rhythm and the temporal element. So it's like my attempts to do sculpture and painting, it becomes very frustrating because I cannot insert any temporal element to it.
Yeah.
So like, you know, I can make an installation of painting that is videoed, but like, no, if I can't have this sort of musical or rhythmic or temporal element,
What are your band camps?
what are my band
For
camps?
this,
So I have one that's called The Judas Sprawl, and that is sort of become bifurcated, music under my name and then music under the name of the band camp.
The
and
Judas Sprawl?
The Judas Sprawl. Yeah, and then I have another one, Rembrandt Rap, which is me rapping.
And I remember last, our first review show, and again, Jarrod was actually the one with the big TV, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, the trains.
So that, the sound was awesome, right?
Yeah, that I did music and full sound and everything, which my film work is very often very musical and very sound based. So I was like, nah, gotta do the opposite.
I was curious about like the identity politics that you kind of opened with. You were talking about like looking like people that you kind of don't want to associate with, or
Yeah, I mean, I sort of interface in different ways in different environments, like everyone does, and you know, I cut my hair and put on certain clothes or whatever, and I look like not the enemy, but I look like somebody very different than who I am, and that's like sort of privilege I have that I've operated with for some time and not really been doing so much anymore. I'm just sort of a weird person now.
Oh, amen. How long ago did you make this?
I made this last fall, October-ish.
Do you feel differently about it now than when you first made it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely, totally. You always think you're doing one thing and then you find out you were doing something else, which is usually exciting to figure out. So yeah, I like it a little better now.
Do you feel like there's like a narrative?
No, I don't think there's narrative. I would say there's a sort of like a scene, like an idea, and then here's that idea explored for 4 minutes in a very abstract way. Again, what the idea is, I don't know.